our Chinese medicine study today. I'm Dr. Hu from South Africa. Today we are going to talk about Yin Qiao San and Sang Ju Yin. In previous video we have talked about 麻黄汤、桂枝汤、大青龙汤、小青龙汤, and 九味羌活汤. As you can see from this formula, when we talk about the cause of the disease, we always say that patient was attacked by cold. So actually it's in one group. Therefore, those formula is going to help to relieve the wind cold. Patient was attacked by cold. From today, we are going to talk the other groups. In this group of patients, they were attacked by wind heat, especially when the climate is hot or the weather is hot. The patient was attacked by heat, or the property of the patient originally it's hot. So when the pathogens come to the body changes them to be heat. So the symptoms are slightly different. When patient attacked by cold, which is we learn from Sanhan Lun, they always said that's from the patient. The pathogen attacked the skin, so the skin was closed. And when patient attacked by cold, when patient attacked by heat, this theories actually is in warm disease. Warm disease theories were developed in Qing dynasty, which is about 400 years ago in Qing dynasty. In warm disease theories, the patient was attacked by heat, external heat or wind heat, and the pathogen actually goes through from our mouth and nose, sometimes directly to the lung, sometimes to the pericardium or to the heart. So as you can see from this, it's very similar to common cold or common flu. It can be epidemic, and the symptoms will be patient feels slightly aversion to patient may have fever or slightly aversion to cold. Patient may have sweat or without sweat. Sometimes feel headache and sometimes be coughing, or feel thirsty in the mouth, slightly thirsty. The tongue will be red on the side of the tongue, and the coating may be some white coating or some yellow coating, but it must be some. The pulse is floating pulse and rapid. When we talk about the symptoms, it actually when we differentiation from the 4 levels, 胃气营血. This stage is 胃 level 胃分. So patient may have a fever, but the fever is different from the 麻黄汤 fever. So patient may still have a fever, still feel aversion to cold or aversion to wind cold. So if there's a wind or it's cold in the room, the patient will feel uncomfortable. But it's very different from 麻黄汤 fever. In 麻黄汤, patient was attacked by cold. Patient may feel more aversion to cold. So when the temperature is cold, the patient feel uncomfortable, but the fever might not as severe as this. In Yin Qiao San, the fever was worse. So when we compare with the fever and aversion to cold, fever is dominant. In 麻黄汤 fever, aversion to cold is dominant. So these are the one of the difference between 麻黄汤 and Yin Qiao San, the symptoms. In Yin Qiao San, patient also may have sweat may have no sweat or slight sweat. There's also a difference. In Ma Huang Tang, we said patient may have fever, may have headache, may have no sweat. That's why we use Ma Huang Tang to create or to cause sweating to get the pathogen out from the skin. When in Ma Huang Tang, without sweat, there's no sweating. Patient, the skin, when you touch the skin, you will feel the skin is very dry. But in Qiao San, the patient, although there's no sweat, but when you touch the skin, you won't feel dry. It might be slightly moist. This is because the heat in the body will keep the skin open, and the fluid is coming out slightly but not a lot. Patient may have headache, may have sore throat, and may have coughing. These are due to the wind heat goes to attack the head. So the wind heat is like the fire, the flames goes to the head. So patient may have all these symptoms. The patient also may feel slightly thirsty. This is because the heat consumes the fluid in the body. So it's actually the patient is actually lack of fluid. That's why they feel thirsty. Because of the heat, the tongue, around the tongue, on the sides of the tongue, and the tip of the tongue, you can see it's red. This is also very different from Ma Huang Tang. Ma Huang Tang syndrome, the patient's tongue is not red because it's attacked by cold. It should be pale tongue. And the pulse. In Ma Huang Tang syndrome, we talk about the pulse is floating but tense. And in Gui Zhi Tang, the pulse also floating but is slow. In Qiao San, because of the heat, the pulse is floating as well, but rapid. So as you can see, all these in Qiao San, Ma Huang Tang, and Gui Zhi Tang, these are for superficial, but the symptoms are very different. Because one was attacked by cold and one was attacked by heat. So these are the main symptoms of Yin Qiao San. And now let's see the Yin Qiao San. What's the ingredients of them? Yin Qiao San, 连翘、金银花、桔梗、薄荷、生甘草、竹叶、金芥穗、淡豆豉、牛蒡子、鲜芦根。So as you can see from the ingredients, the main herbs, the main ingredients of Yin Qiao San is 连翘 and 菊花. These are the general, the main ingredients. 桔梗. In this syndrome, in this case, this kind of patient, they will have aversion to cold. They will have fever. Okay. They will have fever. They will have fever. They will aversion to cold. They will have headache, sore throats, or slightly thirsty. So, in all these ingredients, when we see from 桔梗, 甘草, 桔梗 and 甘草 in 伤寒论 is 桔梗甘草汤. This formula is used for relieve the sore throat, and also here we add 牛蒡子. So 桔梗甘草牛蒡子 can help to relieve sore throat, and 桔梗 also have the function to relieve the cough. 薄荷, 竹叶 is to clear heat, and also it's very light. The weight, in terms of the weight, is very light. It goes outward. 薄荷、竹叶啊 cool or cold. 荆芥穗，荆芥穗 is pungent warm, and 淡豆豉 also pungent warm. Why in this heat condition, or a patient was attacked by heat, or the patient property was heat? In this formula, we use some warm herbs. This is because we want, if it's too cold, we're going to froze. We're going to froze everything there, so we want to add something warm to activate. Because when it's too cold, it's very similar. We put all ingredients in a freezer, it doesn't move. So we need to warm them up to make them to activate, to make them move. That's how to make the formula work better. 鲜芦根, the last one, 芦根, is sweet and cold. It can help to relieve the thirsty, because sweet and cold can create or can generate the fluids. That's the laws in Chinese medicine. In previous video, we talked about pungent and sweet can generate the yang, and pungent, sour. It's sour sweet. So pungent sweet generate yang, sour sweet generate yin, and now we talk about sweet and cold generate fluid. So in this kinds of disease, patient feel fever, feel aversion to cold, have slightly headache and slightly thirsty or cough. The pulse is rapid floating, and the tongue is red on the side. So we use 银翘散. And here, when we talk about 银翘散, when you see from the ingredients, you can see it's actually. When you see from the ingredients, you can see actually most of the ingredients are leaves or even flowers. It's very light. There's one practitioner in Qing Dynasty, Wu Jutong, which is also 银翘散 from his books. He says that to treat upper jaw, we only use very light herbs. To treat upper jaw, we use the herbs like feather. It's very light, only feather, only this kind of weight can flow to upper jaw. So as you can see from the formula here, 银翘散 or the 桑菊印, we're going to talk later, most of the ingredients are very light. There's another one, 淡豆豉. 淡豆豉 we use a lot in warm disease, and the property of 淡豆豉may be pungent and warm, or pungent and cool. How to distinguish or how to make the 淡豆豉, the 豆豉 to be two very different property. One is pungent warm, one is pungent cold. 淡豆豉 is actually made from black beans. It's fermented black beans. So for pungent, when we process 豆豉, when we process the black beans, we use 100 kilograms black beans and 4 kilograms 麻黄, 4 kilograms 树叶. We cook them together, and later on we leave them there to be fermented. After this process, 豆豉, the black beans, become pungent and warm. It absorbs the function from 麻黄 and 树叶. The other way to process 豆豉is the same process. We cook the black beans. After we cook them, we take out to leave on the floor. We leave on table to dry them. As we dry them, we put 青蒿 and 桑叶 put on top of the 豆豉. This process method going to make the black bean to be cold, to be pungent, cool. So it depends which dose you want to use. You can choose from different symptoms according to the patient's symptoms. Also in Qiao san, that's when you prepare Qiao san, we don't want you to cook too long because these are fragrant herbs. If you cook too long, the ingredient will be less. The next one is Sanjuyin. Sanjuyin, the symptoms is very similar to Qiao san. The patient also attacked by heat, also in weight level, so it's very superficial, and also upper level. But the main symptoms from Sanjuyin will be cough. It described as patient only have cough, not very severe fever, and slightly thirsty. So as you can see from the ingredients of Sanjuyin,桑叶、菊花、杏仁、桔梗、薄荷、甘草、尾根、连翘。The ingredients is kind of similar to Qiao san, but here we focus on more to relieve the cough. So when we compare with Sanjuyin and then Qiao san, the main difference between the Qiao san have the stronger function, a stronger effect for relieving fever, and Sanjuyin is better for coughing. And in wound disease, in Ma Huang Tang, patient have fever, it's no sweat. Patient was attacked by cold. We use Ma Huang Tang to cause sweating to get the patient out of the body. But in wound disease, when patient attacked by heat, in all wound disease, normally, just in general, we don't use sweating method. So even when we use Qiao san, we knew it's from heat. We use Qiao san, we use Sanjuyin. We don't want to cause severe sweat because sweating methods is not suitable in wound disease. Because when in wound disease, when patient attacked by heat, the heat already consumes the fluid in the body. So if you use the herbs, the formula to cause sweating, it will make the body become worse because you will reduce the fluids in the body. It will make the decrease, which is already lack of fluid for the condition. So you will make it worse. So in wound disease treatment, normally we don't use sweating method. Okay, thank you for watching our video today. For more information, you can visit our website. You can see our website at the comment.